श्री श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा मैया की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। संवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री गुरु गौरांग की जय। श्री भागवतामृतम की जय। श्री सनातन गोस्वामी पाद की जय। नमः शिवाय। भूतले श्रीमते नमः शिवाय। कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोर्वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatamrita, Volume 2, chapter number is 3 and text 108, sorry 180. So now Gopa Kumara is in Mahakalapura. If you all want to see, you can see also. Generally these are all short verses, simple like Sanskrit, and short translations, short commentary also. And commentary is by translation and commentary is by these guys Gopi Paran Prabhu. His commentary mostly follows Sanatana Goswami's commentary itself. Means Sanatana Goswami wrote this book and he himself composed a commentary. They call it as Digdarshini Tika. And so Gopi Paran Prabhu more or less he has just translated it. So now Gopa Kumara is in Mahakalapura. Mahakalapura is the abode of Lord Vishnu. Mahavishnu, sorry. Mahavishnu. Vishnu, but Mahavishnu. You all know, you must be knowing, in 10th canto or in Krishna book there is description about Krishna and Arjuna going to this place. You all remember, I think, that first time, right? In Dwaraka, some Brahmana sons were dying again and again. Every son who was born, they died. Then he comes and complains that king is not pious, therefore things are not happening in their course, proper course. Then Arjuna takes the vow, I will see who will take away your son, otherwise I will enter fire. Then also that next child of the Brahmana dies. So then Arjuna was about to enter fire, but Krishna took him to this place called Mahakalapura. So those children were killed or they were taken away by Mahavishnu, Why? When Krishna and Arjuna came to Mahavishnu's place, he said that I just wanted to take your darshan. And he sends back all the children. Sons. That means Krishna is his own expansion. They are attracted to Krishna. Krishna himself is also attracted. That pastime is also there. Anyway, they went to this place called Mahakalapura. And now Gopakumara is there, and Gopakumara is he has met residents of Vaikuntha Vasis, and Vaikuntha Vasis are giving him shiksha or instruction on the topic of how bhakti is superior to meditation. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, this topic comes again and again, super excellence of devotional service. That is discussed in relation with different other spiritual practices. For example, how bhakti yoga is superior to karma yoga, how bhakti yoga is superior to impersonal realization, jnana, tapasya, vairagya, then ashtanga yoga. So in different ways. So super excellence of devotional service is discussed throughout Bhagavad Gita. So like that, here they are discussing how bhakti is superior to meditation. Now, these particular words, under text number 180. So, volume 2, chapter 3, 180. Sarvesham sadhananam tat sakshatkaro hi satpalam tadaiva moolatho maya nashyet premapi vardhate. Very simple Sanskrit. Sarvesham sadhananam tat sakshatkaro hi satpalam. Understood? Among all kinds of sadhanas, sarvesham sadhananam. It's a plural word. Tat sakshatkaro hi satpalam. Sakshatkara hi satpalam means seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The end result of all the sadhanas, what is the end result is to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sakshatkaro hi satpalam. So direct vision. Like that. So I'll just read that on. By all methods of spiritual discipline, seeing the Lord in person is the true reward to be attained. That alone destroys illusion down to the root, so that pure love of God may flourish. Now, what is the meaning of this? They are saying, if the direct seeing, a direct vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate end of all the sadhanas, then that is only possible by bhakti. In other sadhanas, it is not possible. I mean to say, you may follow other sadhanas because they are sadhanas. Definitely, they are meant to help us to attain sadhana. But in the end, we have to add bhakti to them to give results. Otherwise, one will not get the end result. Now, if you compare with the meditation, here in this context of direct, the ultimate end, in context with the comparison with the sadhya, in the sadhya of dhyana and bhakti. So by doing devotional service, we get the direct vision of the Lord. We personally meet the Lord and we enter into pastimes of the Lord. But in dhyana, what happens? We meditate on the personality of God, and the yogis, they see the Lord in the heart. Prabhupada used to quote that verse from 12th canto of Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, first verse. Yam Brahma Rudra Maruthay Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruthay Stumanti Divye Stave वेदैसांग पदक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगा ध्यानावस्थित तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यांथं न विदुर्सुरासुरगण देवाय तस्मै नमः. So in that verse, it's a long verse. Translation is that all these demigods headed by Brahma, Varunas, Rudra, Maruthas, they stunvanti, they glorify the Lord by reciting transcendental hymns, especially from Veda, Padakramopanishad. There are particular in the Vedas there are particular hymns are there. They are called as Padakramas. And the followers of Samaveda, they sing the hymns of Samaveda. Gayanti yam Samaveda. Then Dhyana avastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino. Yogis, they see the personality of God in their mind through the meditation, dhyana process. So in the last line, yasyantam na vidursurasura-gana. So neither the suras nor asuras know the end of his opulences. So I offer my respect to such and to such. This is a verse spoken by Sutta Goswami. Anyway, the point here is that line, Dhyana avastita tadgatena manasa. So yogis, they see the Lord within the mirror of the mind.
So they see the Lord in the mirror of their mind or in their mind. But bhaktas, they see Lord directly. So that is the point here. So basically they are explaining the super excellence of these Vaikuntavasis are explaining the super excellence of devotional service in context with Sadhya Tattva. That Sadhya Tattva, if the end result is to see the Lord, have the vision of the Lord, then why not bhakti? That is their point. Because in other yogas you can't see. So another instance we can discuss here is of in Bhagavad Gita you see there. So that bhakti is glorified as Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram idamuptamam pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam susukun kartum avayam. So this is the king of the knowledge, king of education, and it is most confidential. So Pavitram, purest, idamuttamam, it is transcendental. Pratyaksha avagamam, one can have direct vision. So that is the word, direct vision of the Lord. So only by bhakti one can have direct vision of the Lord. So in the purport, Prabhupada quoted verses from Bhagavatam first canto, where in it is described how Narad Muni, he had direct vision of the Lord. So he quotes two verses, Uchistalepan anumodito dvijay sakratsma bhunje tadapasta kilbishai evam pravrattasya vishuddha chetasas tadharma evatma ruchi prajayate. So he took the remnants of those great devotees, Bhakti Vedanta devotees, and in that way what happened? He developed taste for devotional service. Then after that what happened? Tatran vaham Krishna katha pragayatam anugrahena shanavan manoharaha tashaddaya meno padam vishrunvata priyashavasya angamama bhavadruchihi. So then Tatranvaham, by associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. and he developed a great desire for devotional service. You see now how this devotional service works actually. We are given opportunity from the beginning to do hearing and chanting. But here what he does render service to those Bhakti Vedantas. He takes the remnants of them, then he develops taste for hearing. So although we are given opportunity to do hearing and chanting, but actually we are not qualified yet. So whatever other things we are doing, it is just to earn that eligibility or develop that taste for hearing and chanting. So in one sense we are Sukrutina. We are always Sukrutina throughout our life. All the things which we are doing in Bhakti is just accumulating Sukruti so that we develop one day. What happens by developing Sukruti? That is stated in Esham Tantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam Te Dvandva Moha Nirmukta Bhajante Maam Dradavrata. So whole life we are struggling to overcome our anarthas. Then one day after accumulating enough Sukruti, then we will come to Dhrada Bhakti actually. So we are only Sukritivan actually, if you see. We are not actually doing devotional service. We are not actually doing hearing and chanting. Everything what we do, hearing, chanting, service, book distribution, everything is just we are earning more and more Sukruti, that's all. Okay, I'll just read the commentary. The direct vision of the Lord Vishnu, being the supreme fruit of all endeavors, is preferable even to realization of the Lord by meditation. So direct vision is only possible by bhakti. Therefore, in fact, when one sees the Lord directly, one's forgetfulness of Him, which is the root of all illusion, is destroyed. So now Maya he is defining here. Destroys illusion down to the root. He says, Tadaiva Mulato Maya Nashet Premapi Vardate. So bhakti, what happens? It destroys Maya. What is Maya actually, ultimately? Forgetfulness of Krishna. That verse is there in the second canto, in that other day I quoted. Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Definition of Maya is given. Rutayartam Rutayeta. What is that? Tad Vidyadatmano Mayam Yatha Bhasham Yatha Thamaya. Anyway, forgetting those verses. So Maya is what? It is defined, in essence it is defined that anything, conception that anything is that there is something other than Krishna, that is called as Maya. So we forgetfulness, root cause of all Maya is this forgetfulness of Krishna, that is destroyed by bhakti. And you see, other things also may bring us close to Krishna. So other things also may bring us close to Krishna. Or they may take us towards Krishna. Yoga means going towards Krishna. But destruction of Maya to the root is only possible by bhakti, nothing else. In the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, in the beginning you see, Sukadeva Goswami, he tells other processes to Parikshit, and Prabhupada comments there that he wanted to test his disciple, he says, by offering him different other methods of spiritual practices. Then Parikshit himself rejects, what is this you are talking about, Prayashita and other things, they are just, elephants bathing. So then he says that Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agam Gunvanti Kasne Niharam Iva Bhaskara. So Kechit Kevalaya Bhakti, only by devotional service. So all the sins are destroyed. And the next or previous verse to that, this verse, so says, it gives many examples, just like if the seeds are burnt and they become ashes, seeds of sin, when if some grass grows, weeds they grow. If they are burnt their seeds are burnt, then they will not grow again. Actually. So like that, different examples are given there. In fact, when one sees the Lord directly, one's forgetfulness of Him, which is the root cause of illusion, is destroyed. This is described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.21. Bhidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshaya aha kshiyante chasya karmani drashtayeva atmanishware. So now Sanatana Goswami is quoting this verse to how the Maya is destroyed to the root. So here this Maya word is used in connection. It's explained in terms of Hridaya Granthi, our knot, our binding, because Maya binds us to this material world. So Bhidyate Hridaya Granthis Chidyante Sarva Samshaya. So thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruity actions is terminated when one sees the Lord as Master. The entanglements of material work, the doubts and confusions of material consciousness, and the knots of material desire all encumber the conditioned soul. But when he again finds his dearmost friend, the supreme soul, he transcends all these anomalies. When one perceives the beauty and charm of prema for Lord Vishnu, the natural urge of devotional love spontaneously arises in one's heart. So that last point is there, no? Premapi vardate. So bhakti, so here basically in this verse 3 results of bhakti are described. One is that you can have direct vision of the Lord, and second one is, so Maya is uprooted to the root, destroyed to the root, and third one is it increases the love. Premapi vardas. So this is text number 181. Kayadavade radipashatopi prabhum sada krishna kilathadidriksha tatra pramanam hitatavalokanad anantaram bhava vishesha labhaha. All the devotees like Prahlad, the son of Kayadu, saw the Lord in their hearts. They always yearned to see Him with their eyes. For this, the proof is that when they finally saw Him, they felt special ecstasies. So Prahlad, here example of Prahlad, devotees like Prahlad, means when you do devotional service, you get the results of all other spiritual practices. That last verse of 8th chapter is there. That it says, no, that one attains the, I am forgetting that, Vedesha yaggesha tapahashu chaiva daneshu yat punya palapradatvam at pravishtam atteti tat sarvam vidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Okay, in the end, all the mistakes are there in some I got it. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapahashu chaiva dhaneshu yat punya pala pradhishtam ateti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi parasthanam upaiti chad. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So this is another verse which speaks about super excellence of devotional service in connection with other practices. So basically the point is that one is not bereft. That means as we go on making progress in devotional service, on the way we get all these results which are attained by other yogic practices. Okay, by practicing yoga, dhyana, you are supposed to see the Lord within your heart. That also happens. So, or by studying Vedanta or Vedas, by following the process of jnana, you come to Brahma Bhuta stage. So that also happens. So Rupa Goswami, he said, quoting the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labate param. So he quoted this verse as eligibility for accepting pure devotional service. So this is the eligibility. Bhakti begins when you come to the stage of Brahma Bhuta. Before that, like I said, it's all Sukruti now. We are accumulating Sukruti. So whatever we are doing in our life, mostly it is Sukruti. Only some advanced devotees, they are actually doing devotional service. So Brahma Bhuta stage, once you come to Brahma Bhuta stage, then you can imagine that where are we? We are beaten every time, every moment we are beaten by Maya with the whips. You know that there are 6 whips of Maya. Hunger, thirst, death, and old age, etc. Old age comes in that? No, it doesn't come. So like that, there are whips of Maya, and we are beaten again and again, every moment. So where are we? Brahma Bhuta. Where is Brahma Bhuta stage? So that is eligibility for bhakti. But Rupa Goswami says, by engaging in devotional service, by engaging in sadhana bhakti, then what happens? We gradually, automatically we come to that Brahma Bhuta stage. We don't have to separately endeavor to attain Brahma Bhuta stage. So now devotees like Prahlad, they already had attained. They had seen the Lord in their heart, like yogis, the way yogis see in the heart. Still they were always yearn to see Him with their eyes. So then what is the evidence for this? He says, Tratra pramanam hi tatavalokanad anantaram bhava vishesha labha. He says, Tatra pramanam. What is the evidence of that? That they wanted to see the Lord. So definitely, they feel intense separation from the Lord. Like Prabhupada in Paritranaya Sadhuna Vinashaya Chadushkritam, he wrote that Nrsimhadeva did not come to kill Hiranyakashipu. He came to give mercy to Prahlad, because Prahlad was feeling separation from Lord Nrsimhadeva, Krishna. Or he did not come to kill Kamsa. He wanted to give mercy to Devaki and Vasudeva. So in this way, we see that. So what is the pramanam? The pramanam, he gives, you see, generally in this material world, especially these pratyakshavadis are always there in the material world. They want pramana for everything. Right? So they are foolish people mostly. Because anyone who does not learn from authorities, he is a foolish person. Actually. Because he believes in direct seeing or experiencing or his own, capabilities, intellectual capabilities, but and logic, logicians, nyayikas. So they are all foolish people basically. So, but still, because of material world, because our acharyas are preaching in the material world, and material world is filled with such fools. So therefore they always give evidence. Tatra pram, what is a pramana? So when they personally saw the Lord, they felt more ecstasy than they were feeling before. Like now about Prahlad, there is so much description about. In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. There is so much elaborate description how he always felt ecstasies in devotions. There is description that sometime he would become silent, sometime he would start crying, tears would start flowing from his eyes. Sometime he would laugh loudly, sometime he will sing, sometime he will dance, sometime he will just remain silent. So all those things are described. But when he personally saw the Lord, he felt more ecstasy. What is described when he personally? He became speechless. Then Lord Nrsimhadev kept his hand. Then he started offering prayers. And those prayers are also they are his personal ecstasies. Like Prabhupada, he said that my books are my personal ecstasy, my purports are my personal ecstasies. So similarly, those prayers are, they are personal ecstasies. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is writing all these songs. Narottam Das Thakur, he is writing all these songs. They are all his personal ecstasies. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we sing that every day, Gaur Arati. So he is seeing the Lord. He is practically seeing that Arati taking place on the bank of Jahnavi. So that is his personal ecstasy. So he felt more ecstasy then. That is the proof, he says. Tatra pramanami tatavalokanad anantaram bhava vishesha labha. Like that. It says, commentary. The experiences of Prahlad and other great devotees should be taken seriously because sadachara and behavior of elevated persons is important evidence for judging what is of true value. Now you see why I quoted those verses from which Prabhupada quoted in the second verse of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Pratyakshavagam, they are examples. Like many rascals in this world, they challenge preachers, devotees that show me God, show me soul, like that he says. So these are examples, historical examples. And then they want to avoid these examples. And to avoid that, they say that these histories are all mythologies, like that they say. So why don't you take this history, these examples of people who realized? Because if you want to make experiment, it is a lifetime experience. Bhakti is a lifetime experiment, it is. So your life itself, your own body is or your consciousness is actually laboratory. So if you want to do this, you do. If you have to, to do any experiment, if you want to be a pratyakshawadi, you want to learn by experimenting or by logic, and you have to pay the price, right? Pay the price of time, energy. But this is not something cheap thing which is very easily available by, I did some litmus test and I found that is a blue or black, red, and I got that this is acid, like that. Not like that. It's a lifetime experiment, it is. If you are ready to do, you do it. So then you accept that all these truths, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and we are His eternal servants. You don't do. Or you accept by seeing the example of great acharyas, great devotees. So, important evidence for judging what is of true value. According to Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, it was after Prahlad first saw Lord Nrsimhadev that Prahlad's pure love fully blossomed. So, or you can see that Dhruva Maharaj also. So he also, by seeing the Lord, he became silent fully. Then Lord touched him with a conch shell. Then he started offering prayers. So then their love blossomed. Like that. Narad Muni also, it was told, he saw the Lord. Now, one more point I forgot to tell about Narad Muni. It appears that Narada was doing meditation and he saw the Lord. Then why we quoted his example for bhakti here? In fact, he should be an example for meditation, right? So, but if you see those other verses which I quoted, that he developed taste for hearing and chanting, it is bhakti. Although he may have saw, because bhava means what? You will be in, so there is element of meditation in bhakti also. So whenever we see such things here in description in Bhagavatam, we should not take it as Ashtanga Yoga. We should take it as meditation anga of bhakti actually. Like in Rupa Goswami also he explained about meditation. And then the other verses which also describe like Narad Muni, those verses which we quoted, he took remnants of these Bhagavatas. So like that, all those, and he developed taste for hearing and chanting. This is all bhakti, right or not? So other verses, only that particular you take out. Most of these fellows who comment on Bhagavad Gita, they just choose without context what is happening before and after. They choose some verses from Bhagavad Gita and say that, oh, Bhagavad Gita is teaching Karma Yoga, Bhagavad Gita is teaching. No clue of what is the ultimate conclusion, what is preceding, what is proceeding. They just take something and then, anyway, most of the, nowadays at least they don't even quote. I think you can just, by the mercy of Kali Maharaj, anyone can cheat anyone in this without quoting Shastra. But true Acharya means he speaks from the Shastra. Achinoti yah shastrartam acharya sthapayatyapi swayam acharate yasmad acharyasthena kirtitah. So Acharya is one who teaches Shastra, who establishes Shastra. By his own example, he propagates Shastra, he follows Shastra. So in this way, true Acharya means he preaches from Shastra. So anyway, so the point is that Narad Muni was engaged in bhakti, not in Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Okay, text number 182. Krishnasya sakshadapi jayate yat keshanchidakshidvayam milanadi dhyanam na tat kintu mudham varena kampadivat prema vikara yesha. When some devotees, even while seeing Krishna in person, close their eyes and appear to withdraw into their minds, this may seem to be meditation, but in fact it is not. Rather, it is transformation brought on by excessive joy, like the trembling and other signs of ecstasy in devotees in pure love. Now you see that point I spoke about Narad Muni. So Narad Muni, he saw the Lord in meditation, it appears that like that, but it is not actually. It is direct seeing, but he must have closed the eyes like that. So means he is like, there can be many misunderstandings. Like I mentioned that point, that anytime you see if devotees are doing it, it may appear that devotees are doing meditation, but we should not think that it is meditation, it is Anga of Bhakti. So here is Sanatana Goswami is clarifying that point, that sometimes devotees may, even after seeing the Lord also, they may close their eyes, but we should not think that it is, they are going into meditation or trance. It is out of ecstasy or joy it is. This verse answers the possible objection that when Sanat Kumara and his brothers met the Lord of Vaikuntha, they went into a trance of meditation, as described by Maitreya Muni in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now you see, there is previous verse here, there is quotation from Prahlad, there is example of Prahlad is there, 7th canto. Now then quotation is coming from 3rd canto of Bhagavatam. Because this whole Brihad Bhagavatam is what is? It's a summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is. There are 18,000 verses in Srimad. That is summarized in Brihad Bhagavatam. So again another, there is Laghu Bhagavatam written by Rupa Goswami. That is even some, smaller summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what they are doing, our Gaudiya Acharyas, because they didn't give importance to Vedanta, they gave importance to Srimad Bhagavatam. They are writing treatises on their Bhagavatam. They are studying Srimad Bhagavatam and they are presenting it for the people. So this verse, okay, I will quote verse that Maitreya Muni is 3, quote means it is quoted here, sorry. That's 3.15.44. Teva amushya sita padma kosham udviksha sundara kunda hasam labdha shisha punaraveksha tadiya mangri dvandvam nakarunam manishrayanam nidhadyuhu. The Lord's beautiful face appeared to them like the inside of a blue lotus. You know where it is, what is happening here? Sanata Kumaras, they went to that Vaikuntha, no? Then they saw the Lord. This description is there, how this. The Lord's smile appeared like a blossoming jasmine. Smile is compared with blossoming jasmine. After seeing the face of the Lord, the sages were fully satisfied, and when they wanted to see him further, they looked upon the nails of his lotus feet, which resembled rubies. Thus they viewed the Lord's transcendental body again and again, and so they finally achieved meditation on the Lord's personal feature. So this word meditation comes here, right? Thus viewed the Lord's transcendental body again and again, and so they finally achieved meditation on the Lord's. So someone will quote arguing that you are saying that you are saying that meditation is not so important as direct vision of the Lord, or bhakti, seeing the Lord by direct vision with the help of bhakti. But these people, after seeing the Lord, they are withdrawing from meditation. Then meditation should be even superior to direct vision of the Lord. So like that they may quote this verse. So then what is the answer of Sanatana Goswami's answer to this question? Answer is that so it is out of ecstasy, not that they wanted to practice meditation in front of the Lord. So in this word, that what is there? Nidhadyuhu, last word of that verse, 3.15.44. Manishrayanam nidadyuhu. In this verse, the word nidadyuhu, from the verb nidyay, to meditate deeply, seems to indicate that when the Kumaras saw Lord, they passively withdrew into meditative contemplation. But as Vaikuntha Dutas point out, we should not judge simply from the outward appearance of these symptoms. Closing of the eyes and ceasing from bodily movements need not be signs of meditative trance. They may instead be physical expressions of bhavas, devotional ecstasy, similar to other physical signs of ecstasy like trembling, perspiration, and standing up of the bodily hair. Maitreya Muni described the ecstasy of the Kumaras as meditation only because it seemed so externally. Therefore, the superiority of directly seeing the Lord with one's own eyes stands undefeated. Another point is that you see now these ecstasies are described here, but sometimes Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, like now, meditation as ecstasy in devotional service, in bhava or prema. But sometimes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited those ecstasies which were not even described in the Shastras. So one may become confused about it, or one may think that this is all something sentimental, like some great jnani may be there who knows all the scriptures, and he will try to analyze which scripture where this ecstasy is discussed and all. So over intelligent people would be there. So of course, in Kali Yuga, very difficult to get. In the future, as you establish Varnashrama, not everyone will become devotee. Gradually, there will be some jnanis who will always be absorbed in reading Vedanta and Vedic literature. They will try to analyze based on Vedic literature that where is this ecstasy is discussed, and he will say that, these devotees are, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sentimental, or he may call them as mad actually. Like some Encyclopedia Britannica or something says that it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became mad later like that. He was a great scholar before and he became mad like that. So like that the over intelligent people may think like that. So how to justify then why Lord is exhibiting such ecstasies? One thing is that Vedic literature which are there available now, they are not all full. In one sense, Veda word knowledge, you can't restrict knowledge. Knowledge is endless. Prabhupada, he defines Veda as aggregate knowledge, he says. So any knowledge is Veda. So all the Vedic literatures are not manifest. All the Vedic knowledge is not manifest. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is source of even Vedas also. So Vedas are eternal. So Mayavadi, how he defines Vedas? What is the origin of the Vedas? Mayavadi says that they were all eternal. So now every Shaka, Veda Shaka is linked with one particular sage. Before reciting that that Veda Shaka, they recite the name of that sage. So why? Because the sages in their meditation they caught those Vedic mantras, and then they revealed it to the world. So then therefore it is considered that those Veda Shakas they belong to those particular sages who revealed them. So Mayavadi say that what is the origin of the Vedas? So they are called as Veda Drashtas. They are not Veda Kartas. They are Veda Drashtas. Means in their transcendental meditation they saw this, they had vision of all these Vedic mantras like that. So that is their definition of origin of the Vedas. But we know that, and that is also stated in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that Krishna breathed out all these Vedas. Asya Mahatasya Bhutasya Nishvashitam. But when did he breathe out these Vedas? The question may arise. So basically we have to understand from that example that how sunshine comes from sun, but sun and sunshine are also eternal. So similarly Vedas and Krishna are also eternal, but Vedas come from Krishna. So this is how Vaishnavas, Acharyas, they understand. Otherwise, then what is the meaning that how Krishna is the source of everything? Aham sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate. God is the source of everything. Vishnu or Krishna is the source of everything. Janma desya yataha. How is the source of? Okay, so we will stop here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Any questions, comments?
These examples, like about meditation, I also got this question sometime while reading Bhagavatam, that whenever there is the description of devotee during meditation, it is not to be taken as Ashtanga Yoga. So some examples like Dhruva Maharaj is one thing, but okay.
Dhruva Maharaj, what meditation he did actually? Before that he was initiated into mantra of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, He was initiated into mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He was chanting that. That is called as mantra dhyana. It's not dhyana. Or one may do meditation also in bhakti. Like you may just sit like that. That anga of bhakti is described by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That Brahmana was there in Pratishtanapura on the bank of Godavari. He took bath and sat and meditated on the bank of Godavari and started meditation. He did pranayama also before that. But it is bhakti, it is not Ashtanga Yoga actually. So that's why I am saying I say Ashtanga Yoga form of devotional service. You can use another terminology to define it. Because one aspect of bhakti is that it includes all other yogas. We have discussed in Yoga Ladder, right, in Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga means what? It is action is there in that. And bhakti also includes action. In Jnana Yoga, what is there? There is knowledge and renunciation is there. So that is also there in bhakti. And what are the components of Ashtanga Yoga? Meditation is the component. So the meditation is also there in bhakti. Whether you meditate on the sound of the holy name or you so-called sit and imagine the form of the Lord or whatever it is. So it's all bhakti it is actually. Then there is surrender to Krishna, Krishnaika Sharanam, which is not found in the other yogas. Other yogas, they want to attain perfection on their own endeavors. So in Bhakti Yoga, we surrender to Krishna. So we are dependent on Krishna to reveal. So that verse is there, right? That Atas Shri Krishna Nama Adi Na Bhavet Grayam Indraya Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado Swayameva Spurateda. What is that is? We are surrendering to Krishna. We want to just engage in your devotional service. So He will reveal, being pleased with us. In fact, He comes running. Like here you see, He doesn't come to kill. Comes Hiranyakashipu. He wants to reveal Himself to His devotees. Therefore He comes. Because they feel separation.
Specifically in case of Ritu Maharaj, because there it is more elaborate description. Then how he, in the reverse order, he merges the elements. So some just like that, and more here in descriptions are there. For the Ashtanga Yoga. And Prabhupada writes Bhakti Yoga.
No, you can, that is another thing, that you can tell about that any devotee actually. So, how, like it's a description, how pralaya take place. So that pralaya and srishti happens within our lifetime also, right? With our life also, right? With this body actually. So, means death is a process actually. Dying is a process. The process of death or dying is described there basically. And because they are perfected beings, so it may, for other conditioned souls, it may happen in a little different way actually. So according to your condition of the body and consciousness at the time of the death, you may pass stool, urine and die, like that. And soul may pass through the anus instead of passing through the head. So it's a description. It's not that it is a description of Ashtanga Yoga actually. It's a process of dying actually. How a spiritually perfected being dies. That's the point there. There is a reason for all these things actually. Now you see, you may say God created the world. Like, followers of Bible, the great religion of the tribals, say God created the world, they say. And scientists are, what nonsense is this? By saying this, you are, blocking your intelligence, not trying to understand how creation took, or whatever, how, so universe came into existence like that. So they say that, religion blocks the development of intelligence, they say. If you want to become stupid, you follow religion, they say. So, therefore, creation is discussed in terms of 24 material elements in our religion, whatever so-called religion. Okay, you want to develop your intelligence? Come, let's study these 24 material elements, Sankhya philosophy. We will see how much intelligence you have. Unless you get constipated physically also and intellectual. Sotravara said that. He defined modern, what is that? Verbal loose motion and intellectual constipation, he says. We'll see. Actually, most of the scientists, they do this. It's just verbal loose motion. Most of the people, so-called, they think themselves as intellectuals. This is actual, because it's all hypocrisy, Kali Yuga is their so-called intellectualism. And the devotee should not be attracted to such nonsense and become bewildered by them. Now all these things are happening, right? Motivational speaking. Verbal loose motion, it is basically. Okay, anything else?
Pratyakshvadi's point you were discussing, these impersonalists also come inside in that category, or they don't come?
Yeah, so in among the two we say that there is ascending process and descending process. So what we do is we generally in ISKCON we discuss that in context with modern Pratyakshavadis like scientists, those who don't accept Vedic authorities. But among the Vedic authorities also there are who follow Aroha Pantha. So only devotees among the three kinds of transcendentalists, Jnanis, Yogis, Karma Yogis also, they like Mimamsakas and all, they accept the Vedic authority. But those processes are Aroha Pantha within Vedic circles. So like that. So Avaroha Pantha means we depend on the Lord for revelation. Of course, that doesn't mean that we don't engage in bhakti, devotional service. We have to show that we are, right? That dependence on the Lord is shown through the process of bhakti. Otherwise, there are 1,000 years or maybe some 700-800 years of debate is going between Tenkalais and Vadagalais. Some say that Tenkalais, they say that you have to just depend on mercy of the Lord. You don't need to do anything. Then Vadagalais, they say that no, you have to do bhakti, sadhana, bhakti. But before that, all other are Aroha Panthas. So Aroha Panthas, whether Pratyakshavadis, whether the impersonalists, they are Pratyakshavadis, they come more in Anumana than Pratyaksha. Logic, they are into logic. Because Vedanta is more or less based on logic actually. But there are elements of Pratyakshavad there actually. In the strict sense, scientists are Pratyakshavadis, modern scientists. But definitely in those days also they were there. Otherwise, why that in Vedic epistemology, why that terminology of Pratyakshavada comes? Because they are there always. It's not a new thing. Then okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Brihad Bhagavatamritam ki jai, Shri Sanatan Goswami Pada ki jai. Hare Krishna.